va sobre la inmensa dimensión del sufrimiento humano que ha causado esta dictadura y que está causando en este momento. Las familias que no tienen cómo conseguir lo mínimo, lo básico, para que sus hijos coman todos los días, para que sus viejitos, sus ancianitos, vayan a dormir con algo en la parrilla. Esto es una consecuencia directa de la corrupción, de la desidia, de la negligencia de la dictadura. Y por supuesto los que son obviedades.
Here we have the Kenwood R-600 on shortwave, tuned to 6030, which possibly is a Portuguese or Spanish station. I'm not sure which. I suspect it's probably Portuguese, maybe from Brazil. I'll have to look it up later on. My shortwave info site seems to be frozen at the moment, so I can't actually give you a correct answer on that. Anyway, the R600, my impressions. I must say it's a very simple radio to operate. There are very few controls, but it does the job. You just simply set it to the station and away you go. And it's pretty clear compared to, I've compared it with all my other radios, and whatever they pick up, this R600 picks them up. So it's doing a very good job. It doesn't have passband or IF shift or RF gain or anything like that. It's just, as I said, simply you got a tone control, your audio frequency or your volume control, a noise blanker, RF attenuator, and the wide narrow filters, which are definitely useful. It's set on wide at the moment, and then upper sideband and lower sideband stroke CW. So for basic listening, it covers all your needs. Then the band setting is simply using this knob here, which has all the megahertz frequencies from 1 megahertz steps from 0 right the way up to 30 megahertz. So that's very simple. You just simply set that, and then you tune with your tuning control knob, which is also a very nice knob. On this particular radio, this particular one, it had rather an unusual knob. They seem to fit them to some of the R600s and the R1000s, and they don't have any ridges around the outside, and this part protrudes a bit. So to make it nice and grippy, I've put a bit of inner tubing, bicycle tubing, which I cut specifically to fit, and then I've super glued it on here with it just at the join, which is just over here. But that works very nicely if you want to tune on the outer edge, which I like to do. I'm not a particular fan of tuning with this little finger inset or finger ended, I forget what it's called now, but anyway, it's finger recess, as I find it gives you kind of an eccentric kind of effort, whereas I prefer going around the outside. I can actually go much faster that way. So that works quite nicely, but as I said, almost 80% or more than that, or 90% of them seem to have the other knob, which is a more conventional type of knob, much like the one on this, only much smaller on the ICOM, similar to that with these ridges around the edge so your finger can have something to grip on, as opposed to this being smooth. So that's my only complaint about the radio, but it just happens to be, I have this example which has this. At the back it's got connectors for your SO239, that's your normal UHF plug, and it also has connectors for a high impedance antenna, 600 ohm antenna or 300 ohm antenna, depending on how you like to look at it. Probably a 600, I think. and then an earth connection. I can't remember what else. There's an extension speaker, very tiny little plug. It's not the normal 3.5. It looks like a 2mm or something. And of course you've got 12 volt power, which was an accessory on this particular radio, which is very nice, so that you can use it for 12 volts, especially here with the power load shedding or power cuts as we call them. And that's every kind of 3 or at least 3 times a day. So that's in addition, obviously, to your normal AC voltage, which here is about 230 volts nominally, because it varies according to how much load there is. So that's basically it. The tone is very good on the radio. It has a nice clear speaker. Other nice thing, it's a quality radio. This is a casting here, not plastic or anything like that. A die-cast front, very similar to the R-2000, which has the same sort of thing on its speaker. In fact, I would say that this radio, testing it against the R-2000, I haven't been able to put them on the same antenna, which is only a fair way to test it. But the other antenna that I'm using on the R-2000 is also good. It's an end-fed. This one is on my doublet. The R-2000, I would say, is less sensitive. I'd say this radio is slightly more sensitive than the R-2000, particularly at the higher frequencies. When you go above about 17 upwards, I find that this one is quite a bit more sensitive. And the tone is very similar. They both have excellent audio quality. So if you're looking for a very simple and fairly compact, as you can see the size difference between the two, let me just move the CC radio out the way. You can get a pretty good idea that it's a lot more compact. In fact, it's a sort of similar size to the ICOM, except that it's not as high as the ICOM. I think it's virtually the similar width to the ICOM, but a little bit less. The height is a bit less, and it's quite a bit lighter. And it does come with a carry handle on the side here, which is quite useful, so that if you do use it in a portable field station, I would say in a field station set up on a table, it would make quite a nice receiver for that. I know they're much more compact receivers nowadays, tiny little things, but this one you don't have to strain your eyes. Everything is nice and visible. And also the other thing is this is not dimmable, but this is not a fluorescent display like on this one. That's the fluorescent type. Noise in the background. That's the fluorescent display. You can see it flickering away, slightly bluish color. This is a green color, and it's a LED. So I assume because it's an LED, it would be a low current drain, so therefore it doesn't have a dimmer. Okay, so I recommend this radio. If you're looking for one, you can pick them up reasonably cheaply because of the fact that they got simple controls. Thanks for looking.